What is going on, everybody? This is my first live stream that is also going live on Rumble. Now, I'm not entirely sure if it is working on Rumble, but I'm just going to get that set up and hopefully it is. I don't know. It might be, it might not. I guess we will see. It looks like it is. So I don't know, but I'm going to assume that it is and just hope for the best. So as everybody comes in and joins, like I said, I don't know if it's actually working on Rumble. My guess is that it's not. Actually, it is. All right, cool. All right, I'm going to get to it. Thank you guys for being here. Let me just get the Instagram going right now and let's get weird. All right. Thank you for being here. It's 6:48 Friday evening here on the East Coast. I'm the only one that I see in my following list that's live, so let's get after it. All right, everybody, tip of the proverbial cap. The world is on fire. Everything is garbage. Sometimes I wonder if anybody is even currently residing on the planet of Earth. I gaze out into the abyss, the literal abyss, and I'm just like, is anybody present here? Like, I'm just curious. I was just curious if anybody was also currently living here on this spinning, mysterious blob in the sky or not in the sky. Is the Earth flat? Nobody seems to know. How is that a debate? I don't know. The firmament, are we in a bubble? I don't know. I think it's round. Do I have any proof? Have I been to space? No. I don't know. Like, how do you even do anything anymore? How is that even a topic? The world is on fire. Whoopi Goldberg is a distributor of trash. And really, I don't understand if anybody is actually alive and living or if I'm just in a simulation and everybody is a literal NPC bag of actual rice. Thanks for being here. Listen, I got a couple things to talk about. I don't even know. I just want to get right into it. First of all, thanks for being here. Today's stream is presented by BobbySauce.com. I am wearing an Everything is Trash Bobby Sauce original. If you like what you see here, if you enjoy the stream, if it brings any value to you, please consider supporting the channel on BobbySauce.com. If you don't follow me everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Getter, all the garbagey places, check me out at followbobby.com and consider supporting the channel. I appreciate you so much. If you're on Instagram, consider buying a badge. If you like what you see here, if it makes you laugh, if it makes you smile, if it gives you some value, please consider supporting the channel and supporting real human persons that try their best to share with you the truth of the literal, actual garbage human earth. All right, let's get right into it. Everything's on fire. Listen, I've had a lot of realizations lately, and one thing that people ask me all the time is they're just like, "How do you stay positive? Like, how do you stay positive as you're literally swan diving, as you're what is it called, breaststroking through what is quite literally like a garbage swamp of literal human fecal matter that is just the truth of the reality of this world." And I actually got contacted by some people this week that actually gave me kind of like an interesting and well-timed documentary that I watched that I enjoyed quite a bit. So what I want to start talking about first is there's a new documentary by Alex Jones that came out today, that drops today, called Alex's War. Now, I've been following Alex Jones and I've been aware of the Alex Jones universe since 2008. Is when I first kind of navigated my way there, interestingly enough, on YouTube. How the story goes, forgive the people that already know this tale about me because I've talked about it on a number of different podcasts. But basically, I had some buddies that went to, I believe it was either Philadelphia or New York, and there were some guys on the street handing out DVDs in 2007 or 2008. And the person handing out those DVDs was Luke Rudkowski from wearechange.org. If it wasn't him, it was somebody close to his camp, and they handed out this DVD called Loose Change. My buddies brought home Loose Change, and they're just like, why were these people out on the street in the middle of the night talking about this? They said 9/11's an inside job. Let's smoke a bone and let's watch this DVD. What could it, maybe we'll get a good laugh out of it. After watching this DVD, it was almost like a portal opened, like a wormhole opened to discovering the truth of reality. And interesting enough, this DVD led me to what I would consider to be probably the most significant, purposeful, and impactful understanding of reality that I've ever had in my life. And as a result, many years later, here we are, 2022, that's 14 years later, hundreds of thousands of people follow this channel, and millions of people see the videos and the ideas that I put out into the universe on a monthly basis, which is quite interesting. So I always talk to people about how it's important to recognize the significance and importance of your words and actions, and how you are able to influence so many people by simply doing the research and getting better yourself. So it's really interesting how that single human person that handed out that DVD has now directly, indirectly, whatever, affected myself and the hundreds of thousands of people that follow this channel, the 400 people that are watching live right now across these 4 platforms, and any number of different people that are influenced and or benefited as a result of this information coming into their life. Maybe they came for the comedy, they stayed for the truth. Maybe they came for the truth, they stayed for the comedy. Who really knows? Maybe they just hate the channel, hate the world. I don't know. But the point is that a single person's actions influenced hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And it's really interesting how, if we seek truth in our daily life, especially information that we may or may not believe to be true, it's really important in how we frame and understand the reality around us. So watching this video many years ago led me to things like Zeitgeist, led me to things like Esoteric Agenda, Ben Stewart, wearechange.org, Breitbart, Zero Hedge, Peter Schiff, Ron Paul, and any number of people in between. And interestingly enough, at the very beginning, the epicenter of all of this information began at InfoWars. It's really quite interesting how this was the first person, entity, whatever, that influenced me in this way. And I find it very poignant and interesting and strange how the universe just so happens to work, because here today, there's this new documentary. So, full transparency. Some people in Alex's orbit or whatever reached out to me and said, hey, we would be willing to pay you to take a look at this DVD and give us a review in a reel. And I was like, well, what if I don't like it? And now there's a lot of things that I've seen from Alex that I really have liked. And there's some things that seem a little sensational, but that's just the nature of the beast. You're not going to agree with everything from everybody all the time. So I was like, I'm not going to post about this. And I would rather not get paid, and I would not post about this if I don't like it. So they gave me an advanced copy to watch this documentary, and I went in just completely empty with no opinion whatsoever. I had always had a lot of respect for Jones, simply because this person was largely responsible for the ecosystem that brought me into understanding what I would believe to be the truth of the world and reality. And I found it so poignant how, interestingly enough, I wanted to see this DVD ahead of time. So the fact that I was reached out to by them to get an advanced copy of it just was like, what an interesting full circle moment 14 years later, that I'm a person that gets access to this before the general public. That's so interesting. So I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to watch it with no bias whatsoever and just take it on. And I just want to give you a little bit of my thoughts about the documentary, how I feel about it, whether or not I think you should watch it, and how it connects into the bigger picture of reality and what I'm seeing in the world today. So this is like, I've been thinking about this a lot, and all that they had originally wanted me to do was make a reel about it. A reel on Instagram is a 90-second clip. And I was like, I don't even know how I could accurately describe the importance not only of the documentary of itself, but the way that it helps you understand and think about this game. Because the question that I get all the time is, how do you stay positive? How do you see all this bad stuff? And the short answer is, I'm an optimist. I believe that the good guys win in the end, number one. Number two, I believe that in a lot of ways that this is my duty to reality and the world. Number three, I'm enjoying doing it. I believe I have an advantage in this marketplace because I work for myself and have for many years. I understand the internet. I know how to design and produce merchandise. I figured out how to monetize the channel to enough of a degree that it's able to supplant my previous business's income to enough of a degree that I'm willing to dedicate my time to it. And on top of all that, I do believe that it's purpose driven and for the good of humanity, the present day people that are living right now and the future of this earth, including my potential children if I would be as lucky to have them. So it's just interesting that this documentary came at this time because I was like, it's so frustrating yelling things into what is a seemingly empty hallway sometimes. We were just like, I don't understand how I see this so clearly. And the vast majority of people around me don't understand the basics of reality. How could it be this bad? And what I realize is that each individual person, as insignificant as they may seem, needs to remember this. And I've said this in a speech before. It's called the Bobby Sauce Gettysburg Address. It's on my YouTube channel and my Rumble and my Facebook. I would highly suggest that you watch it, which is that all great human beings in this world were once seemingly insignificant, average, everyday folk that decided to be great. Every great person was an average Joe that decided to be great. And their influence on the world and the way that they think about their own reality, the way that they carry themselves through life, the information that they choose to consume, and most importantly, broadcast, has the capacity to change the world in many profound ways that many of us really don't even understand, even at this stage of life. Now, considering that we're in 2022 and we have these distribution mechanisms, your information, your understanding of reality, your research, your time, your effort can be broadcast to more people around the world faster than at any point in human history ever, in HD, 1080p, high definition, audio, video, image, text. Your idea that you got yesterday, 5 minutes ago, 1 second ago, last night, last week, last month, last quarter, last year, 14 years ago, can be instantaneously broadcast around the world and then emblazoned into the memory bank of time, probably far beyond even your own life. Meaning that if you take the chance of broadcasting something that you believe is important out into the ecosystem, it could probably and will most likely live on the internet if it is of value and is significant far beyond you will live on the actual tangible earth that we happen to be on right now. Now, for the people that are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble, it's telling me that my connection or whatever is unstable, and so you might see me a little bit grainy on those other platforms. I apologize on that. It will probably fix hopefully shortly, so you might be seeing a little bit of a distorted view. All right, now. First, I want to start by talking a little bit about, like I said, this documentary. It's called Alex's War. I believe it's on alexswar.com. You can check it out. I want to start first and foremost by saying I believe truly that every single person that may agree with Alex Jones, disagree with Alex Jones, or is indifferent or maybe hasn't heard of him, I believe that you should watch this documentary. I have no financial incentive as to whether or not you go and purchase it, and I would not be telling you about it if I did not believe that it was worth watching for all people. Now, they did offer to compensate me for talking about it, but it's not why I'm talking about it. And the 90-second reel that I was planning on making, I would have made anyways. And quite frankly, even though I know that they're probably watching right now, even if they didn't pay me, I'd still tell you the same thing because I do believe wholeheartedly that this is important. The way that none of these things are going to be spoilers. None of them is going to spoil it for you because it's very important. I think that most people watch this because in summation, I believe that Jones, whether you like him or not, is a world hero. And I don't say that lightly. I genuinely believe that a person that does what this guy has done, whether there's things that you don't like about his ecosystem or do, has the right intentions, much like the intentions of all of us. Now, I think the easiest way that people will dismiss him is they're like, this guy is monetizing all this stuff. They're selling products, they're selling advertisements, they're selling all this stuff. What people need to understand is when you're up against the biggest monsters in the world, when you're saying the things that are the least popular, when you get deplatformed to a degree that this person has and his ecosystem has, there is no other option in order for you to be able to produce and output value other than to find a way to monetize. And people will say, "Oh, it's corporate this. You're a shill. You're a pay patriot." It's like, you just don't understand capitalism, dog. You don't understand this takes time and effort. This microphone right here I bought was the second mic that I bought. The first mic I bought was $25. This one was $197. Today, I bought a brand new one that's coming so that my audio can increase and be higher quality so that you can enjoy listening and maybe more people will listen. That mic was $400. The device that processes that microphone so I can broadcast to you was a $400 unit or $300 unit or something like that. All in, I spent $500 or $600 today on a new microphone. The camera that I'm going to start broadcasting in that shoots in 1080p, that's more money. The streaming system that allows me to stream to 5 different places at the same time, I just had to upgrade so I could stream on Rumble, is $50 a month. This is real money. People need to understand that the ecosystem and the parallel economy that's created by people, you need to find a way to monetize it so that you can keep doing it. That's just the natural flow of things. People that think money is the root of all evil, well, here's a newsflash. There's a lot of money that you've been spending for a lot of people that really hate your guts, that really disagree with you. You'd be much better off supporting people that are inside your ecosystem. And that goes to all the people that buy merch to different people's channels, buy subscriptions to different people's channels, that buy the premium version or the Patreon or buy the badges or send people Venmos. People need to understand that creators of all kinds, including Jones and myself and every other one, that's all that you got. And when you're going up against a monster as significant as the monsters that him, myself, and all of you are fighting, there really is no other option. So I think that that's really important. So this documentary starts off kind of like I feel like most people's relationship with Alex Jones starts from the beginning, which is you're just like, I don't know. It starts slow. The first 20 or 30 minutes of the documentary, it's about two hours long. The first 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes start kind of slow. And I was like, is this going to be bad? Like, how could it be bad? We're at this seemingly peak craziness point in human history, and Jones has been right for so long. It seems like all roads always lead back to him and the things that he's been pointing out for all this time. How could it possibly be that way? But once the stage is set and really once it starts going, you're just like, yo, look, I thought that I understood and knew Jones, and this is not going to be a massage Jones Dirt Star thing for an hour here. But I want the stage and the context to be set so you can understand how I got to this conclusion. This dude goes through his entire life. And I thought that I knew a lot about this guy, but I really didn't know as much as I thought that I knew until I watched this. He goes from literally childhood, where he lived, what he did, the books that he read, his parents, his life with his family at home, and how he came to the conclusion that this was something that he wanted to investigate. And the thing that really blew my mind about it all, is this guy has been saying the same thing since 1991. I've understood what's been going on to some degree since 2008. More importantly, since 2012, when Ron Paul came to the picture, I got reinvigorated. And then even more so in 2016, when Donnie went in, I finally felt like we actually might have a chance to save ourselves from the demons of the world that are most certainly out to get us at all times. But really, when it kicked into gear was 2020, when all of those warnings, all of the things that people like Jones and people that are Jones adjacent and in his ecosystem or nearby it, people that seek truth, had been pointing out since the beginning of time. I remember in 2012, 2015, or in that range of time, I remember Jones talking about the clam dem, talking about basically medical, the biomedical security state, checkpoints and things like that. And I was like, yo, this dude is like on one. I don't even understand how you could possibly say that. You're going to tell me that I can't walk inside my barber shop unless I get some mystery juice? And then wouldn't you believe, not 10 years later, that's exactly what happened. And even to this day, when I tune into the stream sometimes, I'm just like, this dude is so on it, in the same way that you might look at somebody like me and you may say, hey, I'm really informed, I'm really educated, I'm really in the mix on these topics, but I don't have 40 hours a week. I've been dedicating as much of my time as possible to this, which is, again, why it's so important to monetize, so you can dedicate more of your time. But Jones has been dedicating his full attention to it, teams of people, for literally 30 years. And the frustration that I feel, even after my 2 years of being like a public figure, a voice of reason, a truth distributor, as it were, a public figure, whatever you want to call it, even I find myself frustrated often, where I'm like, I don't understand how the world could be so full of evil and people will still not see it. And I like to I think one of the advantages that I have in the marketplace, and one of the reasons why people follow me, and you guys can weigh in on the comments on this, is that I try to make complicated situations consumable and digestible bites. Somebody in the comments, maybe Jones is part of the cabal and he's monetizing Control Dot. See, this is the people that he's been up against for 30 years, is people that say stuff like that. Look, when you are tuned in for 100% of your attention span because you believe that what you're doing has a greater purpose even far beyond yourself, you would start to act like a person like Jones over time. You would start to lose it, so to speak, after a while. You'd be like, yo, how do you not see this? I need to like smash this into your face in order for you to understand what I'm trying to tell you. And what I think was the most poignant takeaway of this documentary is what he said at the end. And again, this is not a spoiler, but at the end of the documentary, he goes, I'm so over the politics of all this. This is beyond politics. The name calling, the left, the right, the pointing the finger at whoever is the public figure that takes the attention right now. It's beyond that. He's like, my only purpose at this point is not even to call out the actions of the politicians of right now, but to make sure that I've done right by my family, that I've done right for society, and that I'm right with God. That's what he said at the end of it. And you're like, yo, and you don't have to be religious to understand what he means by God. You can interpret the statement of God however you choose. And I know some people that consider themselves to be highly religious will consider that blasphemous if that's what they want, but I don't care, because you're living your life and I'm living my life, and this is how I choose to explain it. But I believe in a lot of ways that God is the interconnected spiritual web that connects all living things, which is a statement that I stole from Ben Stewart from the documentary Esoteric Agenda. God is the interconnected spiritual web of all living things. So in this documentary, you see every part of the fight that this guy has gone through his entire life, from the very early days of broadcasting on radio, pointing out the evidence that he found in historical textbooks and how it connects to the present day misgivings of the people in power. This guy was on television. This dude was on The View. There's a clip of Alex on The View. He sat down for an interview with Piers Morgan. He's been in every mainstream news outlet. And one of the things that I also found very profound is how he talked about how Fox was asking him to be a pundit many years ago, and he turned it down. And it's just so interesting to watch the rise and the distribution of all the things that he understands to be true because of his deep understanding of history, and then how it related in the public zeitgeist, how they were always looking for a way to chop them down, and how they use things like what happened in Sandy Hook as the justification for silencing a person. The test run of silencing a person. It's like Jones was leading the charge through all of these very interesting events in our history. And I think that as the hands of time turn and future generations of the world look back, I think that Jones will be considered an American hero. And there's been so many examples in history of people being acknowledged as heroic or acknowledged as great after they die. There are countless examples of that. And I do believe that people like Jones, people like Edward Snowden, and people like Julian Assange will be looked back on in a lot of ways as world heroes, as heroes of the world. Regular people that decided to be great. Regular people that decided to be great. Jones was a regular Joe Schmo that decided to be great. I just hope that people understand the significance of one human life, the power that a single engine has been able to drive. People are asking about what the documentary called. It's called Alex's War. It came out today. You gotta watch it. Just watch it. We're all looking for who is going to save the day, who's going to save the world, who's the leader, who's the person that we look to be a guide in these troubling times. And the sad reality of it, and Andy Frisella talks about this often, is it's you. It's you. And I think that we all need to understand that there will be a day that there is no Jones. There will be a day that there is no you. There will be a day that there is no Tucker, that there is no any person that you look up to. It's available on all streaming platforms. You can get it on like Amazon and anywhere else. You can go to his websites. I believe it's alexswar.com. But like, when you just think of the impact of a single human person, you watch a person like Jones and you're just like, this guy has been literally doing this for 30 plus years. There is a video in the documentary, which I have seen before, of him quite literally predicting what happened September of 2001. He literally said where it was going to happen, what was going to happen, how it was going to happen, and who was going to do it 3 months before it happened. And it just further illustrates how people that do the day-to-day research, how important that is to navigating and understanding the real threat of our time. And I titled this live stream, "The Real Threat is Invisible." I'm starting to realize that pointing out these stupid things that AOC says today, or how bought, paid for, and corrupted people like Kinzinger and Fang Swalwell
and even the Joey Basement crime family, how relatively insignificant these attention distracting pawns are to the bigger picture of what's actually going on. The real threat of our existence, the real threat of our world, the real threat of American sovereignty, your history, your future is not what you think it is. The ultra elite banking class, the secret puppet masters of thought distribution, media distribution, money distribution, that have no country, no allegiance, no soul, that think they're better than you, stronger than you, faster than you, that have been constantly inbreeding with other elite families for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that control the banking system, the international governments, that finance the both sides of every war, that pick and choose winners, that anoint political pawns at any given time that they control, that blackmail people that are the weakest link in the ecosystem, a la Hunter Parmesan. These are the people that are the real threat. And at the top of the pyramid, at the very top, it's not Joe fucking Biden. It's way beyond him. It's way beyond everybody that we can see. The singular entity that has more control over the entire planet than maybe any other entity in human existence is the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. And the shadowy, multi-generational families that operate it and all of its similar other tentacles around the planet. And this single access point is responsible for more distribution of evil than perhaps any other thing in the entire world. And I want people to understand that we are very much in the jungle of reality, and we are not the lion in this equation. But that doesn't mean that we lose. If we look around us and we look at every objective aspect of reality to try to understand whom and what is the real threat, the absolute clearest and present danger that applies to all people, I think, is food. And this is something that I've been very curious about for a very long time, but still didn't understand the severity and significance of it until I got further along in life. And even now, it's something that I want to understand more. But if you go to a grocery store, if you go to a Walmart, if you go to any mainstream food distribution point, the food, the very fuel by which all of us operate, and the water is largely poisonous. It's like, yo, the amount of poisonous chemicals, additives, preservatives, and other things that appear in mainstream water and food should be clear enough to all of us that something is clearly wrong. The next point, beyond the food and the water, which is just quite obviously the most simple one. It's like one of the most inexpensive things to create are things that occur naturally in nature. Yet in school, through the education system, you're not learning how to grow your own vegetables at home. You're not even learning that there's any significance to that. You're not learning about money and finances. You're not learning about your health. Most people don't even understand their own body. We're all being poisoned every day, all the time. We're being poisoned through the food. We're being poisoned through the water. These are the most simple things. We're being poisoned through our lack of education, the dumbing of everybody, the dumbing down of everybody, the constant distractions, the refusal to educate the youth properly. And it's like you're getting attacked from all angles. And if you dare say the right things or get over the target, you get removed from the conversation. This is something that's been happening to Jones for 20 years. So it's like, okay, they're eroding the value of the money that not only you, but your family has worked to gain for their entire lifetime. They're eroding its value right out of your pocket. They're taking away the American dream of people that start a small business by eroding your ability to run that small business. It's so obvious. And what I found so interesting about this documentary is like Jones has been so on it for such a long time that all of these things are largely predictable to a person that's close to the real truth of things, that understands history, that has the altruism to care about children and other people, that puts in the time and work ethic, that shows up every day, and that is doing it with the right intent. And like him, love him or hate him, when you watch this documentary, you see quite clearly how many steps of this equation and how many pieces of media this guy's been putting out for the last 30 years that has clearly illustrated the problems, the goods and the bads of every situation that's happened throughout American history since he's been alive and broadcasting. And it shows what happened in DC on that day. And it's just a perfectly timed, very interesting look at how all this stuff has happened up until this point, and how one person has done their best to navigate it, now culminating in this one piece of media that is just one in many pieces of media that he's put out, and certainly not the last thing. People still asking about the name of the documentary. It's called Alex's War. Go to alexswar.com and check it out. So the stream is not entirely dedicated to that, but it just reminded me that there's far more to this than what meets the eye. The documentary is not all encompassing of everything you would need to see in the world. However, it should make it very clear to you that the frustration that I may feel and you may feel about educating and informing the people that are in your ecosystem isn't for naught. It isn't lost on the people that really get it. And there's been probably 50,000 times in the last 30 years that a person like Alex probably looked at what was going on around him and was like, why should I even keep doing this? And it's the same answer that I have continued to come to when I've felt frustrated in a similar way, which is just like, this is what I have to do. If not me, then who? It's the mentality of a patriot. And I'm not trying to gas myself up and say I'm this patriotic person. I don't need the accolade. It's not even about that. But this guy is, whether you like him or not. And so many of you are people that are doing your best to output value and shine light on the truth of how all this stuff is going down. So I just think it's a really interesting representation of how a single person can drive so much value and point people in the right direction of what they need to understand about reality. It's like, if they are poisoning your food, if they're poisoning your water, if they're refusing to educate your children on things that actually matter, if they're creating a society of people that question their very biology, that they try to convince them that objective truths can be changed if you simply get a surgery or if you simply will it into existence by saying, I am this or I am that. In Canada, I was listening to a story, I think it was on Ben Shapiro today, where he was talking about a mother who had her daughter and visiting rights with her daughter taken away from her in Canada because she says, "You're a girl." And it's like the degree of darkness and evil that's out there is just mind-blowing. And again, it's like you don't have to agree with everything that I say or everything that's in the Jones documentary or anything that's in any documentary. But I think it's very important to remember that seeking information is good and getting an understanding of both sides of the view of things is important. I follow a lot of Democratic accounts. I follow a lot of left-wing accounts. I follow a lot of progressive accounts on Instagram and elsewhere so I can understand what they think. And I try to see, where do I sit on this argument? Where do I sit on the last argument? And a perfect thing happened yesterday where I was reading about this thing called the PACT Act. And I watched this video, of Jon Stewart giving this emotional plea about how these big, bad, evil Republicans stopped this thing called the PACT Act. And I still got to do more research to understand it in totality. But I was like, wow, that's messed up. How could Republicans vote against providing health care to veterans? Why would they do that? How could they do that? Why would that happen? And then I see all the people that voted against it, and a lot of them I find to be very deserving of respect. So I looked into it some more, and it's like there's this provision in there that allows for them to spend nearly twice as much money on things that have absolutely nothing to do with the veterans, and that's why they're saying that they voted against it. Now, some people, I've heard other people be like, oh, it was already in there or whatever else, and that's why the research is so important. It's like it's a full-time job to try to figure out what's really going on. But I can guarantee you that the headline that The Hill, NBC News, and every other clown says is usually wrong. It's often wrong. And when I see somebody like Elizabeth Warren tweeting, oh, the GOP senators stopped this thing, they hate the veterans, it's like, what? It's like whatever they tell you, the opposite is true. Whatever they tell you, the opposite is true. The Patriot Act is the least patriotic act to ever be written. It's an endless and unregulated nanny state for all people forever. You could just say, I don't like them. They're a political defector. Nope, let's watch them. Let's without a warrant surveil them because they could be a threat. Then they have this thing called the Inflation Reduction Act that they released yesterday or a couple of days ago that will do nothing but increase inflation. It has nothing to do with reducing inflation. It's like the level of deception, the darkness that is employed and put into play and distributed by these people is sick. And I think, and I hope, and one thing that I got again from the Jones documentary is he was just like, dude, this is beyond politics. And I've been realizing that lately. It's just like, there's things that AOC says and Elizabeth Warren says that make me so mad because these people are demons. They are demons. They are serpents from the underworld. They are the people, and I don't mean that literally, like AOC crawled out of a fucking portal. That's not what I mean. I mean these people are puppeteered by a dark energy that they don't even understand. And I'm not saying it's biblical, although so many people will say that. I'm just saying AOC is just one head of a very complicated, gigantic snake. She doesn't even understand the darkness in what she's pushing. She's young and dumb. And 4 years ago, she was making a fucking Moscow Mule in New York, not knowing shit about shit. And now she just happens to have a pantsuit and a Tesla and an expensive apartment in DC, and she still don't know shit about shit. But this girl gets airtime. This person gets distribution. This person is interviewed, and this person is looked up to by the future generations of this world. The thing that's going to ultimately take us down and is taking us down right now is a lack of education, lack of care, low effort, low courage, low integrity. low testosterone, low leadership, low work ethic, low BS detector, low propensity to stand up for yourself, low understanding of reality, low understanding of history, low discernment. It's not AOC. It's not Swalwell. It's not Kinzinger. It's not Crenshaw. It's not Hunter. It's not Joe. It's not Funbags, Garbage Merchant, Demon Serpent Pelosi. It's none of them. It's Jine. It's the shadowy puppeteers that run the entire planet. It's the people that are the useful idiots of the state, the narrative pushers, these low integrity demons that work in the mainstream media. How shameful these people are. And if you want to just be reminded, I want everybody to just understand this. There is duality in this world. There is dark and there is light. And at the end of the day, I guarantee you that people like Don Line, Joy Reid, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and all of these people, these low integrity, low vibration, sad people, no matter what amount of popularity, money, accolade, reward, distribution, or praise that these people get, they will never, ever feel the joy, wholesomeness, and love of a person who is rooted in reality, truth distribution, and the betterment of society as a whole. Don Line and Joy Reid will never sleep as good as you will. They will never understand the true reality of this existence like you will, like you do. All they have is the illusion, the fake illusion of success, when inside they're disturbed, sad, dark, overcome with a clueless and shrouded view of reality. Chris Cuomo hates himself. Don Line, Joy Reid, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, these people hate themselves inside. And what's so funny about it is they look unhealthy on the outside. And it is a reflection of their mind inside. The way that they talk, the things that they say, the light that they theoretically pretend to show, the people that they purport to defend. This game is an illusion. We are living in a highly produced simulation. To what degree of truthfulness it has, we will only find out when we meet our creator. What we do between then and now is up to us and us entirely. But people like Ben Crump, who I constantly rail on, is a merchant of the darkness. Ben Crump is the most low integrity lawyer in the public sphere right now. But but to the outside world, Benjamin Crump seems like a person deserving of your respect. Well, there's a Netflix documentary about him. Oh, a documentary. He's rich, stacked to the gills, driving around in his $150,000 Porsche. He's got a nice suit on, a $5,000 suit, and a $10,000 watch. And he's getting case after case after case, grifting from the very community he purports to want to defend. And instead of pointing out that maybe these young men in his community should perhaps maybe take a little bit more responsibility for their actions. Maybe you shouldn't attack a police officer. Maybe you shouldn't take pictures and post it online of you with two firearms in your hand. Maybe you shouldn't be a piece of shit. Just saying. Maybe you should not be a loser. of which you deserve none of our respect as an upstanding member of society. We don't care about your skin color. We care about the exact thing that all of your forefathers fought for, like Martin Luther King Jr., to judge me by my character. But demons like Crump can only see through the prism of skin color, can only see through the prism of race, because all he cares about is himself. All he cares about is grifting from his community, the community. People that operate in the visual reality that most people think is reality are the ones who will never ascend to the true divinity of what all this shit is. You are not your body. You're not your brain. You're not your eyes. You're not your heart. You're not any of these things. And the most obvious example of this is people that have had near death or actual death experiences. There are countless stories of people who have died, been declared legally dead, no heartbeat, no brain activity, that have come back to life. And nearly every one of these people that has an account like this has described a loose basis of the following: light, love, warmth, and in many cases, the ability to see oneself. If you die and you are hovering above your own physical body, seeing it, what is seeing it? If it's not your eyes, then you can see without your eyes. If you feel warmth, then you can feel without your body. If your heart stopped and your brain stopped, what sees your body? What sees your body is your soul, is your spirit, is whatever vibration, whatever sound that you want to associate with that, that's what it is. And this physical reality, in a lot of ways, I think is an evolutionary test to determine whether or not your soul is mature enough to understand more. And you will likely cycle through this objective reality enough times until your soul is mature enough to be granted access to the next level. You can believe whatever interpretation of that analysis that you want. You can believe what you read in the Bible, the Torah, whatever you want. But generally speaking, most people are talking about the same thing. So when it comes down to it, at the end of this journey, whatever, the question is what are you capable of in this reality? What are you broadcasting? Who are you associating with? What is the thing that you are distributing out into the world? What is the energy that you're putting out to the people that are around you? Is your soul evolving? Are you helping other souls evolve? Are you fulfilling your purpose in this environment? And again, it's like, I didn't want to make this only about Jones, but I just keep thinking back to what this guy has done. And I'm like, look, imagine seeing the truth. Imagine having a telescope into the future where you can see 50 miles away and everybody else just has their eyes. And a few select people that have been working and training and working to figure it out, well, they have binoculars, but you have a telescope. The telescope is rooted in truth, understanding, altruism, understanding of history, reading, understanding secret societies and the occult and a variety of other things, human behavior and how it's gone and how it's I suppose manifested itself, or how it's been placed into reality over time. And it's like, in this scenario, Jones is looking through it with a head start on probably most of us, and has a telescope and is like, yo, this is coming. Imagine how frustrating it would be to see through the telescope the things that are coming down the pike, whatever, and people being like, nah. There's this thing, I believe it's called an adoption curve. An adoption curve is typically used to show how quickly a technology becomes pervasive in society, how long it takes a technology to exist in society before it's adopted by most people. And pretty much all pieces of technology follow this curve, from televisions to the motorized vehicle to the telephone to the internet to laptops to mobile devices. There's this thing called the adoption curve. There's like 6 to 10% of people that get it right away, that can see it ahead of time, that adapt immediately. Then there's like a 10 to 15% people that see it a little bit after, that have to let those guys and gals go first, that they get it. And then you're at the 30%. Then the next is like 40 to 80% of the people, like the laggards, that the first half of people, the first half of society had to have it before they had it. This has happened with the television, the radio, the cell phone, electricity in the car, and so many other things. The desktop computer, the personal computer, the internet. Jones is at the beginning of the adoption curve of truth. And you all, even though it seems so obvious to us all, are an early adopter of realizing the true nature of reality. The sad part is that a lot of the laggards, some never come around. The last 10 to 20%, they will never capitulate until the very end. We have to almost consider that they're going to be out of this equation. But it's the 40 to 85% of people that we're trying to break into now to understand the reality of what's going on. And that's why people like Alex and people like myself and people like you and people that do their best to distribute the truth, to try to put this out there, to help people understand that this is far beyond what we even think, that have taken the time to look into it with even more depth and a historical understanding of how the world has operated. These are the information warriors of the modern day. These are the patriots of the present day. And I believe that should we be lucky enough to prevail in this battle, which I think we will be looked back on as the heroes of the day. The people that were like, yo, up against the wall with every possible thing stacked against them, yet stayed to it. I think that we need to recognize how important a single person is to the movement as a whole. It's like Rosa Parks decided to do that day. Harriet Tubman decided to do that day. Martin Luther King Jr. decided to do that day. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln decided to be great. These people made a decision. And my friend Isabel Brown posted a reel today of her speaking at the Turning Point Student Action Summit, where she talked about how the writers of our founding documents were in their 20s. I believe she said Andrew Jackson, I believe that's who she said, was it 33 years old? So it's like, we will never understand the significance of how impactful we are to the people around us and the world at large until way later. There's this quote from Steve Jobs that I love where he's just like, it's so much more difficult to connect the dots looking forward than it is to connect the dots looking backwards. But when you look backwards, you see how the dots connect and it all makes sense. The research that you do today, the motivation that you generate and gain today, the things that you talk about and think about and absorb today will change the conversation of tomorrow, will change the video that you make on Instagram 5 years from now, will change the conversation that you have around the water cooler 5 months from now, will change the things that you tell your children and that your children tell your children. It'll change the way that you operate in this reality. It'll change the way that you view the world. It'll change the way that so many people around you view the world. And interestingly enough, so many people can see what you're doing. They hear what you're saying. And most importantly, you hear what you're saying and you see what you're doing. It's like we are the heroes in our own story. And the cumulative impact of a lot of regular folk that decided to do great things is the reason that America, is the reason that the world is as great as it is the reason that I'm able to speak these things to you without ending up in a jail cell, is the reason why Jones is able to say things to you without ending up in a jail cell. There's a reason why we were born with the cognitive understanding that we have, that you would even find yourself on a piece of content like this. There's a reason that you're absorbing this, because your reality, your soul, whatever, is capable of this challenge, and in a lot of ways probably chose this challenge intentionally because it believed that it was capable of doing something of great significance when faced with it. So the universe, reality, people, God, whatever, has a way of making the road rise to meet you. And when you decide that what you want to do is exhibit as much greatness and contribution to this world as possible, it will open up a path for you to make your way. And there is no story as poignant to exemplify this as my own story in my life. I was making websites for a living, and I was doing this type of research and caring about the world and looking for a dare to be great situation. And I wasn't sure how, and I wasn't sure when, but I knew that I could do something, but I wasn't sure what it would be. And one day I made a video on Instagram and didn't think much of it. And the next day it had 60,000 views. And that 60,000 views, coupled with the work ethic and the research and the understanding and the knowledge and all of the other things combined, the dots connected going backwards, let me say, that's what I got to do. And the marketplace, you have created a platform that allows me to do this. And the fact that this content even exists is because of people like you, because you watch it, you share it, you buy the merch, you buy the badges on Instagram, you donate on Venmo, you donate on Cash App, you request me on Cameo, you subscribe to the Patreon, you support the creators so that they can create the content that you believe and I believe the world needs in order to prosper. And isn't it so interesting that in this equation, it's like when a creator that's in this ecosystem that the general public doesn't want, the ability for them to monetize just about anything is very challenging, very few and far between. So I just found it so interesting that something like this documentary from Jones actually comes and backs and supports me. It's so interesting because I would have watched it anyways. I wanted to see it anyways. I understood the significance of it anyways. I understand the significance of this person and the effort that they have put in. People are saying share the link. alexswar.com. It's called Alex's War. Check it out. So again, talking about this documentary is not something that I would have done if I didn't think it was worth watching. And you don't have to agree with everything I says or he says or anyone says to understand that absorbing new information is important. But it just gives you yet another perspective of the grand significance of what all is going on right now. And that's what I understand, is that it's not political anymore. And you have this dude that's been fighting this fight and feeling frustrated, much like you and I probably feel. I can certainly say that I do. That you're telling them what it is. You're showing them historical precedent for how. You're predicting things that will happen in real time that play out over time later. And people are like, nope. But such is the true testament to the hero, to the patriot, to the hard worker, to the person deserving of great respect, is they understand that what they're doing is of paramount importance and is the reason that they're here. And if it were not for people like George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Abraham Lincoln, Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Alex Jones, and every other person that you've gained information from, and you, where would we be? It's like, could you imagine how it would be if it weren't for people that shine the light, if it weren't for people that share the truth? It's an information war. Wholly and truly. And I just find it very interesting that so many things are happening around us that they're lying to us point blank, and people still don't get it. But that's the challenge. How do you navigate this seemingly insurmountable task and come out of it optimistic? Because that's what you got to do. I would wager that all of those people felt the same way that I feel, and far beyond it. I'm not putting myself in the category with them, but they were just like, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? If not here, then where? How do you allow this? If it shows you itself to be true, to deny its existence and not fight for it or against a force of darkness when you can see it, that's what all the other people do. That's what the people that choose the money, the fame, the accolade, the award, that's what they do. They're like, nope, I want a primetime spot on CNN. I want my name in lights. They choose that. And as a result, the world is worse off for it. But they don't care. But you care, and I care, and so many people care. And that is why I believe that the information warrior of the modern day is the true hero. The people that contribute their own piece to this larger equation are the most necessary foot soldiers in the modern war. People that simply work to shine the light and the truth onto a world that seems to be occasionally shrouded in darkness and mistruth. If you're in a recession, and the word recession has been clearly defined for decades, and they will look you square in the face and say, we're not in a recession when 2 years ago, 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 decades ago, that same person and the channels that they pretend to represent and the false lies that they tell and everybody else, they said this is what a recession is. Every textbooks, every definition, every person, every expert has said that this is what it is, and they'll look you right in the face and use the pulpit of the fucking the leader of the free world to say it's not that. Fuck these people. They will lie to you without any recourse. They don't give a shit. I can't even watch Karine Jean-Pierre because she is the most brain dead person I've ever seen behind that podium. This woman, it agitates me to another degree. She is a complete and total puppeteered pawn. Clueless to where I don't even know that this woman even understands what it is to be alive. And it isn't even just her. It's all of them. Useful idiots of the narrative. Useful idiots of the puppeteers of our reality. Merchants of darkness. Not even understanding the error in their ways. Or being willing to look the other way while they distribute more trash into the environment instead of plant more seeds where truth can grow and flourish. Instead, they choose to be merchants of the darkness. And isn't it so interesting that merchants of the darkness, that distributors of evil, will use their own actions as a way of projecting on other people? They'll say, conservatives are evil. They're dark. They don't care about people. They don't care about children. They don't care about this. They project their darkness on everybody else. They are not right with themselves. And if they are right with themselves, it's because they haven't taken the time to understand that their understanding of reality is being manipulated and dictated to them by much darker and much more powerful entities that understand that they are ripe for manipulation, easy to control, and thus willing stewards of the message that will only benefit them in the end. They reward them with riches, with accolades, with fame, and the fake fortune that they believe is actually the thing that matters. But they don't know what they're missing. They don't know. They don't know what is beyond that. They just know that the objective reality, as far as they can see it, is rewarding their actions. They don't even understand that they're serving a far greater master, that to them they are disposable. So that's the message. First of all, again, thank you to everybody that's been watching today. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody that's been buying the badges on Instagram before I go any further. Gigi Governor's Island, Britt C. Wolf, Leo's the Lion, Christy PIWO, Lana Liberty, thank you so much. Janet Rhodes Harmon, Baker Minerals, Skater, Maria Fetteruso, Mary Max 73, AZ Native 63, MJ Conrad, Eric Rotter, photographer, and Jen Lisa 80. Thank you so much for the badges on Instagram. I very much appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that's been watching on Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble. Thanks to everybody that's been supporting on patreon.com/takenabs. Thanks to everybody that's been buying merch on bobbysauce.com. I really appreciate that so much. And thanks to all the people that are supporting. Thanks to the people in the Alex Jones camp that reached out to me about talking about Alex's war. I appreciate it. I'm so thankful that I got to watch it. I really enjoyed it very much. For anybody that liked what I had to say about that documentary, like I said, I'd encourage you to watch it. go to alexswar.com and check it out. Like I said, I enjoyed it greatly, and it gave me a very interesting and renewed appreciation, not only for Jones, but the fight just in general, and how, how do you summarize 30 years of work in a 2-hour window? How do you really frame it up? And I think that, this particular documentary just did a really good job of summarizing the singular efforts of a single human person and the output that he's created as a result. And like I said, whether you like the guy or don't like the guy, I would highly suggest that you check it out, simply because it just gives you a perspective of the frustration that a person must feel when they've been so spot on about what's going on, and ultimately what's going to happen in the future if more people don't wake up to the reality of what's going on. If you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure that you hit this arrow and follow me on Instagram. If you are not following me on Instagram, please make sure that you do that. For anybody also that's on Instagram, if you want to follow me everywhere else, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, the whole getter, go to followbobby.com, and you'll see all the links to all the things are there. The merch is at bobbysauce.com. Like I said, this is the Everything is Trash shirt. A lot of good stuff on there, so check that out. Again, make sure you follow me by hitting that arrow if you're on Instagram. I've been try to ignore the comments when I'm ripping. Also follow me on Truth Social. My handle on Truth is @TakeNaps. I try to ignore the comments when I'm talking because it interrupts my ripping. So I want to see if I can view some of the comments here for a few minutes before I go. Maybe answer some questions if anybody has any. But I'm going to take a few questions from the comments before I go. But thank you guys for watching. A lot of nice comments have been happening on Facebook. I appreciate all the people that have been commenting on Facebook. There was over 450 people concurrently on the stream here earlier, between Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and Instagram. Christy said, I need to get on Gutfeld. I'd love it. Tell him to get me in the building. I'm down. I'm down to literally clown. Jeff said, is the earth flat? I do not believe that the earth is flat. No. Some people do. I do not. Somebody said, I just joined and would like to know your opinion on Donnie. I've been really clear about my opinion on Donnie in a number of different occasions, but I feel like that's kind of a loaded question. But I would just say, I said, IG is clapping my audio. What do you mean? Why? What's happening? Is the audio bad on Instagram? Is that happening? Yeah, I think that Donnie did a great job for the most part, but I think that he has his problems. It's delayed. That sucks. Delayed audio. That's annoying. Lagging a little. That's annoying. Some people say it's good. Some people say it's not. That sucks. They say it just started. Well, then I'll only stay for a minute then. Somebody said, will Hunter be indicted? No, probably not. Why doesn't Joe blink anymore? I have no idea. Thomas said on Facebook, are you going to share the whole live stream? Yes. This live stream will remain permanently on my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and it will be on Twitch, I believe, for 2 days. Somebody said, my opinion on DeSantis for president. I hope that he is the president. I think that would be great. I keep getting mixed reviews about the audio on Instagram. Some people are saying it's good. Some people are saying it's gone completely. I don't know. So I love you too. Thank you. Running with you're hot. My husband isn't offended. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, it's back now. Is the audio on though? Is it delayed still? It's delayed, but it sounds fine. Ugh. All right, well, I'll only stay for another minute. Delayed. That sucks. Audio is delayed. Okay. All right. Well, listen. We're at an hour and 19 minutes. I generally find that more people watch the live stream when it is shorter and to the point. Most people can digest an hour, 20 minutes, but when they see it at 2 or whatever, it just gets clapped. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for now. I feel like I said a lot of good things. I'm around tonight, so maybe I'll jump back on a little bit later on. I know it's only 8 o'clock, so maybe I'll go for a walk and maybe I'll come back on later. But thank you guys so much for being here. If you like the stream, like I said, consider sharing it on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Rumble, whatever. Consider sharing it around if you could. I really appreciate it. And again, thanks so much to everybody that's been buying the badges and who's been buying stuff from BobbySauce.com. Thank you so much to all the people that bought the badges on Instagram. Sauce After Dark is always fun. Yeah. The entire stream will be available on my Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. I tried to stream on Getter, but for whatever reason, I couldn't get it to work. So I got to contact the Getter guys that I met at SAS this weekend and see if I can figure out how to get the Rumble stream going or get the Getter stream going as well. Thank you so much. Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitch. Thank you guys for being here. I'll catch you later. Appreciate it.